3 years ago, the Choose Air Hexa made history. $80 never sounded so good. Now, Choose Air is back with a new challenger, the Pure. So the big question is, can the Pure carry the torch and claim the throne? Let's find out.
So, here is the Pure. Yep, Xiaoqiang is back, and she gets a new outfit. I think it's pretty cool. Slide off the sleeve and you are greeted with the classic lead-off box. Pop the top open and you'll find a small envelope box right on the top. Inside, a Xiaoqiang postcard. And if you look closely, it's got this nice holographic finish. The color shoots on different angle, and technically you can just melt it, but let's be honest, I'm gonna keep this one rather than send it out. Also inside there's the user manual and the warranty card. Below that is the Pure. Also the carrying case. Inside the case you'll find the stock cable, and this time it's a clear PVC sleeved one. They finally changed the stock cable. Personally, I think it looks way better than the black one that came with the Hexa. And at first glance, I actually thought it was a pure silver one, but considering the price, it seems a bit too good to be true. Then I flipped the box over, and yep, just like the Hexa, it's OFC with the silver plating. The new cable is just like the original black one, very soft. It doesn't hold any shape, doesn't spring back, and honestly, it almost immediately reminded me of the stock cable from the Beyerdynamic, the Zalento. Not identical, but both are just as soft and easy to warp up. I would say it's very well done. And we get the selection of ear tips. 7 pairs in total, 3 grey, 3 black, plus a set of memory foam tips. At first glance, the Pure looks almost identical to the Hexa, but actually they are not the same. The faceplate is very similar, but they have added some wave-like ridges on the Pure, which I think is a nice touch. It gives the shell a bit more visual depth compared to the flat finish on the Hexa. The shell itself is also noticeably thicker. The Pure's shell is roughly 23mm now, while the Hexa was closer to 21mm. One nice improvement is the nozzle. Instead of being flat like on the Hexa, the Pure adds a small ring to help keep the ear tips in place. And also, there is now a vent port on the side of the shell. The little vent helps relieve the pressure that builds up when your ears are fully sealed off, which some may feel uncomfortable or fatiguing over time.
Alright, so for this part, I'm just gonna walk you through the glove. Now, full disclosure, I'm actually borrowing a test setup from a friend for this review. He's a pretty interesting guy and even built his own DIY measurement mic. This is actually the one I used in this video for live demonstration. That said, it's not the most accurate one when it comes to measuring frequency response, to be honest. So, for the sake of accuracy, I'm borrowing the Critical's one with 5128 testing mic. And by the way, my friend is planning to upgrade to a pretty cool rig soon. So hopefully I'll get some even better graphs in the future.
Right, back to the topic. In the base range, from 20 to 150 Hz, the gain is higher than Hexa, but lower than the Harman target. This means kick drums and other bass transients don't hit with particularly strong slam. They are present but not exaggerated. In the lower mids, from 200 to 500 Hz, instead of following a flat Harman style line, there is an elevation. This gives most lower mid instruments a larger image, bringing the image closer and more forward, while also adding a sense of warmth and body. And here we have got a narrow peak around 3000 Hz. This can cause upper mid-range instruments to sound less sharply defined, giving them a slightly softened edge in terms of imaging clarity. As for the treble, from 3000 Hz to 10,000 Hz, there's a quick and smooth roll-off. This results in reduced upper mid presence and overall brightness, but in turn, it enhances the weight and density of the lower mid-range. And finally, in the upper treble, above 10,000 Hz, the roll-off remains smooth without any sharp dips or peaks. There's no exaggerated focus on air, which gives the sound a darker background, and it avoids artificial sharpness or shimmer. So that is how the pure sounds like, at least with my eyes. But we're talking about sound. It's not something you can judge just by looking at it. So let's talk about how it actually sounds to my ears.
Alright, let's talk about how the Pure sounds to me. First off, one thing. Pure is noticeably easier to drive than the Hexa. Its sensitivity is higher and the impedance is lower. That means you'll get the same loudness with less volume. The bass here is on the meaty side, in my opinion. There's plenty of bass and more punch compared to the Hexa. You can really feel the impacts and the slam in kick drums. It's not bloated, but there's a satisfying weight to each hit. Strong and full body. Vocal come across as natural, but with just a touch of warmth. Looking at the graph, the Pure has more energy than the Hexa from around 80 Hz to 1000 Hz. And that added energy brings a bit of richness and warmth to the vocal. They don't sound shouty or aggressive, just smooth, slightly warm and easy to listen to. The placement is also well done. They aren't pushed into your face, but they don't feel distant either. I would say it's a very natural one, well-balanced position in the mix. As we saw on the graph, the 3000 Hz to 6000 Hz is on a gentle downward slope, and that covers much of the sibilance region. And yeah, there's almost no sibilance. The upper mids are smooth with no harsh sparkles. Interestingly, I'd say the treble detail is better than on the Hexa, even though the Pure's treble is slightly darker. But yeah, we get more treble details on Pure. It has better texture without much of the sharpness. And in terms of resolution, I'd say it hits the standard for this price range. Not ultra detailed, but definitely not muddied either. Imaging and separation are quite solid, especially in small ensemble recordings or sonatas. Soundstage is not mind-blowing, but not cramped either. It's kinda balanced. It doesn't wow you, but it never gets in the way either. But since I've got no stake in this and no one is paying me to do this review, and I'm not getting any commission to promote it, so let's just be honest about the downsides. For me, there are just two main issues with the Pure. First, the bass. Yep, there's a good amount of bass. I actually like it because I'm a bass head myself. But in terms of sub-bass extension, it doesn't dig very deep. You get the impacts, but sometimes you can feel a bit flat. The second one, at least to my ears, is that vocals can sometimes come off a bit dark. I think it is related to the way the bass is tuned. The upper bass and lower mids were boosted compared to the hexa. That's not bad on its own. It gives you more bass in quantity, more slam. But in this case, it can crowd out the upper mids and treble a little bit, and thus making the bass overwhelming the mids a little bit. Adding to the fact that above the 6000 Hz, the treble roll off more aggressively than on the hexa. This has pros and cons. On the plus side, it's a safe tuning, less sparkle, also less ear fatigue over a long session. The downside is that the treble extension feels a bit limited. It kind of hits a ceiling quickly, which can make the sound feel a touch of dark or closed in at times. And to be clear, the Pure doesn't sound dark at all. This isn't something you will hear on every track. If the singer's voice is naturally bright, you won't really feel it. Same with those jazz vocals, where the tone is usually dark and deep already. The tuning actually works in its favor, because it isn't even close to the ceiling. But the tricky part is with those mid-range vocals. Those not super bright, not super low. That's where the sound can sometimes feel a bit muted, or it's like topping out too early. That's it.
I thought I'd found a man I could trust. What a bust. This is how the story ends. He's gonna turn me down and say, can't we be friends? I thought I'd found a man I could trust. What a bust. This is how the story ends. He's gonna turn me down and say, can't we be friends?
Yes, I thought I knew the wheat from the chaff. What a laugh. This is how the story ends. I let her turn me down, say, can't we be friends? Yes, I thought I knew the wheat from the chaff. What a laugh. This is how the story ends. I let her turn me down, say, can't we be friends?
Sometimes I wanna call you, but I know you won't be there. Sometimes I wanna call you, but I know you won't be there. Oh, I'm sorry for blaming you for everything I just couldn't do. Oh, I'm sorry for blaming you for everything I just couldn't do. もう泣かないで今あなたを探している人がいるからお前に会いたいんだともう泣かないで今あなたを探している人がいるからお前に会いたいんだと愛は多分誰かのためそっと愛は多分誰かのためそっと
For me, the Pure isn't really an upgrade or a replacement for the Hexa. It's more like a side grade, each with its own strengths. They both sit in the same tier, but cater to different tastes. If you're a bass head, the Pure will probably be the better pick. It's got more bass, more meaty and bloomy presentation. Not overly thick, but definitely richer in bass. On the other hand, the Hexa feels a touch more natural. Less warmth, less amount of bass. If you prefer a more neutral, less warm, but brighter vocal, I'd say Hexa might be the better choice for you.
That's the end of this video. I'm just getting started with this whole review things, so every like, comment means the world to me. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, comment and subscribe. I'd really appreciate the support. See you in next one.